Hello, I'm Malcolm Haslett. Kapunda High School is a medium-sized country high school with a current enrolment of around 650 students. It's geographically located 80 kilometres northeast of Adelaide, between the Barossa and Clare Valley, in the town of, strangely enough, Kapunda. It's Australia's oldest mining town. It's amongst the oldest secondary schools in rural South Australia, and it celebrated their centenary in 2007. But alarms sounded recently after the school's West Terrace campus classroom went up in flames. When emergency services arrived, they found the heritage-listed stone administration building fully ablaze. So, what's happened next? It's my great pleasure to introduce to you David Marino, who is the principal of the high school.
I am. Hello, Malcolm.
Hello and welcome.
Thanks.
Gee, that must have been horrific.
Yeah, look, it was a surreal experience for everyone involved in it, just as the events unfolded. Absolutely.
Yeah, I should say that footage was shot by a teacher, I believe.
Yeah, it was. So teachers, community members all sort of sent us some footage.
Right, and you put it all together.
Yeah, and being the lifeblood of our community and a real core part of the town, a lot of students and teachers and support staff live near the school and all around, and basically all came out to see the horrific scene that night on the 29th of March.
Yes, I remember seeing it on the news services because it got national exposure, the fact that, you know, such a heritage building had burnt down. The building originally was owned by a family, is that correct?
Yeah, so look, it's a really historical building built in 1876 by Mr. Alexander Greenshields, originally called Lanark House, and then purchased later in 1901 by Sir Sydney Kidman, Australia's Cattle King. So really prominent historical building.
Very prominent, yes. And an Australian name that, in fact, so many streets, town, all sorts of places have been named after that family. Amazing.
Absolutely. We even have a school sporting house called Kidman House as well, in honour of Sir Sydney Kidman.
Oh, and that's Nicole Kidman's family, I think, as well.
Yeah, I believe there is a connection, somewhere there.
Yeah, so it clearly affected Australia in many ways. But what did the house look like before? I know we've got a few shots of what it looked like.
Yeah, look, it was a stunning, beautiful, prominent old home.
In very much the English mansion style, wasn't it?
Yeah, so yeah, really, really nice old building, lots of lovely features and details on it, and people would travel from far and wide to come and see the building because it is of really national significance. Yeah.
So obviously the school has been built sort of around the building as well. What did you lose within the building that was part of the school?
So we did lose a number of buildings. We lost a wooden transportable building, which we refer to as the 60s block, and that had 4 classrooms and staff offices in there. We lost, our most prized building, Iringa, as it's called, but also there was damage done to our home ec facility and the art building nearby.
Is that because they were close to the main house?
Yeah,
yeah, right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've seen this edifice over here, the cup. Just let's pop it on the table here, because you managed to salvage this, which obviously has an enormous history.
Yeah, definitely. So this is the Norman Leslie Thomas Memorial Cup, and he was a soldier, an ex-student and graduate of Kapunda High School. Right. Served in the Second World War in Timor, and tragically lost his life in 1943. And in 1946, the school community dedicated this trophy in his honour. Right. And it's the trophy that our houses can win on Sports Day. It is the trophy for Sports Day for our school. And
this is obviously all of these little plaques around here?
Yeah, all of the different years which houses won.
Right. I'll just spin that around so that we can sort of see. There's room there, obviously, for a lot more at the bottom there. and you can tell the age of, starting from up the top here, you can tell the age as the years went by.
Yeah, absolutely.
How was this salvaged, though? Seeing what the house looked like?
Yeah. It was really...
Somebody took it home for the night. Go on, tell the truth.
Almost, Malcolm. Yeah, definitely almost there. So we had Sports Day a few weeks before the tragic fire incident, and it was in a staff office due to all of the organising and, storing things away from Sports Day. So it was just a little bit of good luck for us to have it there, and it is, to my knowledge, the only bit of memorabilia we have from the building at this point in time.
It's such a shame. Do you know how the fire started?
Yeah, look, not 100%. It is still under investigation, and the CFS and SAPOL and MFS have been really, really thorough, and they're still investigating, but at this stage we still don't know what the exact cause of the fire was. It's
such a shame when we lose our history. A lot of people don't realise how valuable it is to, to have that connection with the past, because if we don't have the connection with the past, where does our future starting? Yeah. Sort of. How's it affected the students?
Yeah, look, it has been a challenge for students in a number of ways. Firstly, the facilities and the classrooms and resources that we lost. So it's involved a significant amount of relocation, replanning, and lots of temporary workarounds amongst the school. But students have been amazing, and they're very resilient, and they've put 100% effort into doing all they can to keep our school spirit strong. And likewise, staff have been remarkable as well, going 110%. And doing all they can to make things good for the students.
I love it. I love it when people say 110%, because can you go past 100%?
Before
Is that what you mean by that, though? That they've put in more than would be expected of them?
Look, absolutely. Exceptional times call for exceptional measures, and certainly.
So we can go over the 100%.
Well, in this case, I would say the staff of Kapunda High absolutely have gone over 100%.
Yeah.
They've dug deep, and on top of the COVID challenges which are being faced by the school, the staff have absolutely gone above and beyond to make sure kids are getting the support they need.
Right, because that's a really interesting point. Obviously, a country town is separated from the capital cities. How did you go with COVID? What was the percentage of kids that were off? Was it a lot?
Yeah, look, it's been a bit of a rolling scenario and situation for us at our school, and likewise in country schools. So we tend to get peaks and troughs around COVID cases.
Right.
And some of it's tied to, sporting events, etc., etc. But we've managed to stay on top of it.
You didn't have to close the school?
No. Fortunately, we've been okay in that department.
Because you were sort of separated from mainstream cities, was it, or just good luck?
Yeah, look, probably a little bit of both, Malcolm.
Right.
Yeah, I would say our location is part of it, but also, I guess, just the way that students have followed the protocols, staff have followed the protocols as well, washing hands, wearing masks as was required, when and where that was all needed. Visitors as well all did the right things. So, we're in a pretty fortunate situation with that.
Yes, it's just seeing what's happened with the rest of the world, particularly with education. It's been very clear that it's been a real trial, particularly for kids, and it's a secondary school, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly.
So you've got people that are heading into their life, I guess, particularly in the country, that would stay in the country and work within the employment areas within Kapunda and the Barossa, I guess.
Yeah, so for our students, it's really been a case of, it's had some impacts on their learning, but, we've done the learning from home, learning through distance.
Difficult that though, isn't it?
It's certainly got its challenges.
Yes, certainly has. But we've got a challenge. We've got to take a short break, and we'll be back in a minute because there's so much more I want to know. Welcome back. We're talking about the fire that literally destroyed the Kapunda High School with the principal of the school, David Marino. David, it must have been very difficult for you as a principal because you're the one that everyone basically has to look up to, and you've got to have the strength and courage to say, well, this has happened or this hasn't happened. Just before we look at the first day back at school, we've got a few more images here of what the building looked like after the fire. We saw the building with the fire before, but this is what was left. And this is always shocking when you see these sort of pictures because you realise what you've lost.
Yeah, absolutely. And, 146 years of history up in flames, unfolding before our eyes. And, I think lots of people who were there remember the smell, the sirens, the flashing lights. Yes. The CFS and the MFS working for, over 12 hours straight, doing everything they could courageously to fight the fire. And in many ways, it does look like a ruin. And the building, the interior is absolutely destroyed. But what they did manage to salvage is really remarkable. We have really good foundations and walls from all reports.
Because they were built so well back then.
Yeah, built so well, and and every effort was made to save whatever that they could.
So even just looking at the surrounds, I guess that was a door and window. You can see that the fire didn't lick into that, but it licked into what was behind the archway.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it basically tore through. Ruined the roof, all the interior, lots of lovely wooden furniture.
Would have gone up
heritage.
very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And the building has 8 chimneys, and 2 of the chimneys collapsed, one on the night of the fire and one the following morning. So currently they're looking at, and we're working closely with the Department for Education, Heritage SA, at what the options around restoration look like. And part of that work involves removing the chimneys from the building to make it safe enough for workers to enter and do what they need to do to clean up.
In case the other one falls over as well.
Absolutely.
Or one of them falls over,
Yeah, and the risk. So believe it or not, Malcolm, they need to dismantle each chimney brick by brick. They need to label the bricks. Yep, they need to put them in containers. And they've also 3D imaged and modelled each chimney to make sure it can be rebuilt to the exact specification when and if the time comes.
So why do you think that's important?
Look, I think just the reaction from the local community and people further afield have such a strong affinity with the school and with that building in particular.
Because they went there?
Yep, they went there.
Because it was their home for 4 or 5 years or so.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And we have students now who are 5th generation students of families in that school.
Yep.
Their parents have worked at the school or do currently work at the school. Their grandparents worked at the school. Their great-grandparents went to the school.
Yeah.
Just a really strong
Again, it's the
community.
history, isn't it? It's the history and connection of a place. As humans, we need that. We need that connection.
Absolutely.
And buildings are one of the ways that we can all share that, I guess.
It is. And Oringa in particular, lots of people connected to the school have had wedding photos at the school with that building in particular. So we've had a few initiatives. One's called Remembering Oringa.
Yep.
And our school promotions person is running a project to collect stories, images from anyone in the community.
Oh, that's brilliant.
To capture those photos, capture the stories as well.
Yes.
And I've received mail to the school from students who went to the school in the 1940s. And they've told stories about during the war when they did air raid drills and whatnot. And apparently they would take cover in a tunnel, which allegedly is under the front lawn of the building. Now, I haven't seen it with my own eyes, but it's one of those stories, I guess, or one of those famous myths around the town about some tunnels that run into the city from our school.
Well, that's not uncommon in a lot of those old buildings. You know, whether they were tunnels or storage, because we didn't have refrigerators and it was a way of keeping things cold, and there would have been wine put in them being in that area.
Yeah.
Fascinating. So the kids eventually did come back to school.
Look, they did.
How hard was that for you?
Look, for us it was about getting back to teaching as soon as we could to try and get things working for kids. Mm-hmm. And we had 3 days. So the fire happened Tuesday night. We were closed Wednesday, Thursday and Friday to the public. So a team of us working with the department and our school leadership team, we all pitched in, we worked around the clock. Our education director was on the scene with us, working on the front line. Asset services from the department, everyone pitched in, the IT team from corporate,
yep.
And our own ICT team as well, and looked at how can we get back to teaching and learning by the following Monday. And
here's a shot of you obviously addressing the people that did come back, but that looks like there's family and friends as well as students there.
Yeah, that's the staff and students. So that was an outdoor assembly.
Right.
Obviously, COVID restrictions, we couldn't have an indoor assembly. So
right.
The first day back, the following Monday.
But this was another part of the school, obviously, because that's not burnt.
Yeah, that's in the front asphalt in front of the building.
Oh, okay.
It is.
So that's a bit heart-wrenching, I would imagine. Looking at the bones of.
Look, it certainly is a really confronting image.
Yeah.
And it is all fenced off, so temporary fencing is all around it.
Of course.
Just to keep everyone safe
yep.
from the construction site and area.
Quite understandable.
Yeah.
But you were able to save some IT equipment.
Yeah, so look, a remarkable story emerged in those 3 days that our school was closed to students and the public. And it was a joint effort with the CFS, MFS, our school IT team, and also the corporate ICT team.
Right.
And basically our IT manager, Jack Micken, who has many generations who have worked and attended the school,
right.
Went down with the CFS with all of their safety gear.
While this was happening, while the fire was burning?
The following day.
Oh,
so the fire was out.
Right.
Still a disaster zone.
Right.
But with all the safety equipment and clearance, went down into the basement where our IT servers were kept. Now, from all of the water which was pumped onto the building, it had all pooled and collected in the basement of the building.
Right.
And there was 1.5 feet worth of water
right.
in that basement. And our server rack started from about 2 foot off the ground. So, despite the smoke damage, despite the bits of water and charcoal and debris that had basically gotten all around and on the surface of the server, they were able to extract it, dismantle it, work their magic, as they do. And
we got a shot of that too with Jack.
Yeah, so yep, Jack Micken, our ICT manager.
Here he is.
And that's Jack firing the server up just before we were due to get kids back on site. So that was on the Friday.
You see, these are the things that we don't sort of necessarily think about after a fire. It's all of that intellectual property is the best way I can explain it. Is that a fair way of putting it?
Look, it is.
It's all your records and...
Yeah, and significant history and archiving of the school,
right.
You know. Memorabilia and honour boards stretching back hundreds of years. And look, the school was donated in 1920, the building was, by Sir Sidney Kidman to the Education Department. So 1922 was the first year of Kapunda High School on site, and this year marks 100 years of Kapunda High School on site.
So what have you got planned?
Look, it's a great question, and while we've got the tragedy and the rebuild process of all of the devastating fire that's happened, we have 2 brand new cutting edge buildings, a senior school building and a middle school building. So there are still things that we're positive about. There are still things that we're proud of definitely in our school, and still great facilities. So while there is a lot of work that we're doing, front and centre and behind the scenes, there's certainly still lots to celebrate, about our school.
Yeah, well, always, particularly the community involvement. But were you a Kapunda boy?
Look, no, I did grow up in Adelaide, but then I moved out to the country for my first teaching role, and I never looked back. I've stayed in the country ever since. So,
and your brother's here tonight. Is he the same?
He started out in Adelaide,
right,
and then he moved overseas. So yeah, he hasn't come back apart from visiting.
Oh, what's wrong with you? He's sitting over there looking, big grin on his face. We've got to take another quick break and we'll be back because I've got a couple more questions. This is a really interesting story, a genuine human interest story, and we'll be back to complete it in just a moment. We've been talking about the tragedy that happened at the Kapunda High School with the principal, David. David, it is a tragedy when these things happen because it affects the whole community, doesn't it?
Look, it certainly does.
Sorry, we've talked about that part of it, how it's affected historically, but now people are really pulling together to make the change for the future.
Look, absolutely, Malcolm, and, I can't even recount how many people have reached out to us, offered their support, offered well wishes and encouragement for the work we're doing, and also material support. So, the local bakery donated coffees for every staff member. Local families have brought in, morning teas for our staff, over those crucial days while we were planning and getting things back together.
Well, we did have a shot of the staff room that is no longer in existence, sadly.
Yeah.
When you see something like this, you think, that's what it used to be like. It's really hard to sort of realise that is no more. I now have to create something completely different. Or will you try and recreate rooms like that?
Yeah, look, so the plan certainly, is to try and restore it. And because it is a heritage-listed building, the plan, all things permitting, would be to restore it, exactly how it was.
To try and make it look like it was.
Yeah, and we're really fortunate in a way that there was a refurb done in 2011, and all the architectural drawings and plans,
Brilliant.
they all
Were they
exist.
on your server that you saved? Here's a question.
They weren't there, but they were on the other end, the architects had those.
Right. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we see those programs on television, how, heritage places are being done up all the time. So fingers crossed they can make it happen for you.
Look, certainly, and there is that massive outpouring that so many people have volunteered to come and help us with it.
Yeah.
Old architects who were part of the group who restored it in 2011 have put their names forward, and the Greenshields family have personally made contact with us, the original owners and builders, and offered their support as well and encouragement. So we're really fortunate in just the depth of support we're getting.
Great success for the future with that. And it's been really interesting to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming down, because it's quite a trip to make down here. And I hope you've enjoyed meeting David and hearing about the school and hearing about a positive future for the school. So thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your time, for joining us on Our Time. So until next time on Our Time, keep yourself nice till then. Bye.